What's up YouTube and welcome to the deck that won the biggest Marvel Snap tournament so far. This Destroy based Deathwave deck won the first place at the recent Frame Break tournament in Switzerland in the hands of Echok. And the gameplay footage for today's video is gonna be a bit unique because it is gonna be live tournament footage of what I think was the best series of the tournament. And I was lucky enough to do the commentary on it alongside Dan. But first of all, a quick deck overview for those of you who have never seen this deck before or want to understand it better. The main idea here is setting up an insanely explosive final turn play while disrupting our opponent, and the key to this is Wave. Ideally we play Wave on turn 5, setting the cost of all cards in both players' hands to 4. But if we're not playing another card on turn 5 alongside Wave, that means She-Hulk also does get discounted by 2 on the final turn. That means we can play a 4 cost plus She-Hulk already. Additionally, if we did get a couple of destroy triggers off in the early game, Death also gets discounted. So if we got 4 or more destroys off, Death is gonna cost 0 after being hit by the Wave effect. That allows us to play Death, She-Hulk, and a third card on the final turn, while our opponent can usually only play 1. The rest of the deck is just ensuring that we do get enough destroy triggers, so we play this whole destroy package early game, also to set up some significant power numbers. And for control tools, we have Shang-Chi and Arrow in this one. And this archetype is a timeless classic. It has been around for a while, and it always re-emerges after balance patches and after new cards get released. And it is not easy to play this deck well, and I think the gameplay footage will showcase what can be done with this deck in the hands of the right player. So let's jump into the winners finals of the Frame Break tournament, Echok versus Moyen. We're seeing Moyen against Echok. Moyen, one of the most accomplished players in Marvel Snap, at least competitively, and Echok having gone 5-0, blowing through the group phase.
He actually beat Moyen when they're both at 4-0, and like they play each other. So Echok goes at 5-0, stops the tournament. Moyen keeps playing, loses another one, goes to 4-2, and so like he basically forced Moyen to play like another hour in the tournament. So that's the revenge match for Moyen.
It's crazy. So Echok might have a bit of a psychological advantage, but earlier on in the interview with Moyen, he did mention the one player he wants to get his revenge on is Echok, and let's see if he can manage to get that done here.
Well, and funnily enough, the other loss of Moyen is the Fishu, so maybe Moyen plays them back to back.
Wow, that would be insane. Ebony Maw start coming out from Moyen here, immediately locking him out of the right location, but we do see Jeff in hand, we do see Dr. Doom in hand, so this is perfectly fine.
Yes, and once again, the whole reason why we're playing Jeff in this deck is because we can do stuff like this, which is play it behind Ebony Maw. Apparently Moyen has a problem. If we can get a ref on stage for him, please.
Let's see what is going to happen here. For now, we see the first Jeff of the tournament dropping in on the right side. The cutest card in Marvel Snap, arguably. Although Ryan Gonzalez Goose might make a good case here. Some variants, some Dan Hip variants could also arguably take that trophy, but Jeff is just one of the most adorable beings in the Marvel universe.
Def.
Coming down next to Ebony Maw, and it looks like there's still some struggle. Let's see if there are any types of technical difficulties on stage.
Yeah, I guess they went and tried to ask for a technical thing. So I guess for now the players are advised to just keep playing. So we're just gonna go and we'll see if there's anything wrong with the players. But for now, like, Moyen still played Jeff. Echok passed because he didn't have anything to do. But now Elysium kind of changes a lot of things in this matchup, because Deathwave could go extremely fast. But at the same time, Sandman can come at any point almost from now on. So
Elysium is incredibly good for both players here. The question is, does Moyen want to get the wave out early, as long as Moyen knows that Echok doesn't really get the benefit from death discounts and from She-Hulk discounts? The other options is just to go with a permanent wrap and drop the Electro in here, set up this Dr. Doom into Arnim Zola play for later on.
You would lock Elysium doing so, but with Jeff, like that's the double bonus of Jeff. You can play him behind the Boney Mo, but you can move him even like later. So the card is just so versatile, and I feel like in the deck, this is exactly what Electro Ramp needed. Like, you already got a huge boost with Leader coming back, with the meta just being very profitable, and Jeff was just the cherry on the cake. Like, here's that little flexibility to make, well, it's not perfect, but it just makes the deck, like, it's well-rounded. It's not just an Electro deck anymore that just plays one card a turn and can only do that.
Absolutely true. So far, Moyen has not found the most important card, though, of his deck, which would be Sandman, especially in this matchup. Ichok could still pull off some crazy combos later on, but Moyen has an incredibly strong setup here.
Yeah, the fact that Moyen is far ahead on the point count, at least once this Dr. Boom will reveal, is pretty big for his deck. And the reason why we want Sandman so much is because most of the time, if you don't have Sandman, you can kind of use Wave as a little Sandman, but against Death Wave, do not do this. Like, this is a warning. You will get punished if you think Wave will be like some kind of a Sandman against this deck.
Yeah, you're basically aiding the Death Wave deck if you do that on turn 5. Squirrel Girl Killmonger comes out instead, immediately getting a ton of discounts on the death, taking a lot of power away from Moyen's right side. But the early Doom is still coming out and is still turn 5.
Yeah, so and it's pretty big for Moyen to have priority because there's an Aero that has been waiting into Ichok's hand. And I guess like Aero into Ornium Zola is probably one of the strongest play Ichok can have in this matchup. Because we talked about how good Ornium Zola is when you get the right target. But we could talk about how devastating it is when you get the wrong one. Like copying Electro, it's as close as passing your turn as it gets with this deck.
Pretty much. So a lot of mind games, a lot of outplay potential on both sides. Shang-Chi also not having a ton of targets in this matchup, but could hit Devil Dinosaur and can hit Magneto.
Yes, and this is probably why priority is so important, especially against the Ornium Zola deck. Is for Shang-Chi, for Aero, for all these cards, I feel like Ichok will try to seize priority, like actively in most decks. But
the arrow does come down but doesn't do anything. It is too late because the locations are already filled up. Nonetheless, with the Monster Metropolis buff, Ichok is in the lead in the left location, just now has a very tough time to come back in either of the other two locations.
Yeah, and it's really about, for Ichok, it's really about figuring out where do you play your points, because I'm pretty sure he can win one location more. But it's really about figuring out where does Moyen play, like either Magneto or America Chavez or that kind of cards, because Jeff can move. So it's not that easy to read. Like you could just say, well, Ichok only has to figure out can he beat 18 on the right, but it's not that simple.
But there's no Chavez on Ichok's side, so this is just going to be Death, Shang, and Bucky coming out for a total of 16 power. It would not be enough to beat Moyen's Chavez in either of the two locations.
Yeah, but because there's Shang-Chi.
Oh, yes, Moyen has priority. My bad. That is absolutely true. So it does come down to whether or not the Shang-Chi does hit the Chavez. And another interesting dynamic here is that if Ichok just decides to bob all 16 power into the right location, if Jeff doesn't move, he just wins by 1.
I think that's the play. You just slam everything to the right. If he moves and plays Chavez, you kill Chavez. If he doesn't move, you win by 1.
That is a great point. This seems to be the play to make, but let's see what Ichok goes
for. He goes middle?
For the middle instead, but that also just wipes out Chavez. And Death will take control here in a 4-cube game.
This is a huge start for Ichok, and I feel like in this tournament that's kind of been the story of how you beat Electro Ramp, punish the non-Sandman hand. When they have Sandman, it's so hard to beat as a deck currently. When they don't have Sandman, if you can get this 4 cubes, even 2 cubes, this is a huge deal already.
This has been enormous so far. We see a similar start again from Moyen's side. Ebony Maw into Jeff. The wave option in hand that you kind of, if you want to play wave, you probably want to play her early in this matchup.
Definitely, and I've seen a lot of players like watching the stream and kind of watching around, holding Ebony Maw a little bit, but because Moyen plays Jeff and he's had it twice, Jeff makes Ebony Maw much more okay to play on turn 1, because you're not giving the opponent the information, this is a location I kind of don't care about for the rest of the game, and this is where it's so good. Like you commit Jeff, but you don't actually commit to the location. Like, for example, on turn 5 on this Dark Tower, Jeff is going to be a 5. That's something really good to move.
The Daily Bugle here was very interesting for this matchup. It copied a wave for Ichok. Ichok does not have a wave yet. Does give this interesting playmaking potential. Moyen again has the tough choice here. Do I go for Electro for some more permanent ramp, or do I wave out a Dr. Doom early and maybe set up another Arnim Zola play?
Well, I feel like if you're gonna play wave, you have to play it before they start destroying, so that could be okay. And the other thing is Moyen doesn't have a 5 in hand. And looking at his list, I think they only play Sandman because they have so many 6s. So the chances that you actually top deck if you decide to go for the Electro line, I think with this deck is actually pretty low. Like compared to other ones, I've seen people play Vision, play Aero, play all these kind of 5 cost. I don't think Moyen has anything else than Sandman.
Dinosaur.
Oh, they have Dinosaur. Okay, so that was pretty big. So that's 2 draws.
So roughly 2 out of 6 or something like that. Deathlock does come down on the right side. The early wave comes out.
My bad.
Yep, there we go.
Should have played it.
That's why Moyen is Moyen.
It is always Sandman.
A prodigy, a naturally gifted card game player. Has prayed to the heart of the cards in the morning and does get rewarded here. Leader might come out early, keeping the Dr. Doom option open for some surprise power spread potential. Not opting for an early Sandman, but I can totally get behind it. Sandman can wait until turn 5.
I mean, yeah, I think you get a 6 out now, and you just go for the 6-5-6 kind of pattern with Wave. And the thing is, because you have seen no destructions, you could think, like, if you're Ichak and you have, like, a She-Hulk, a Death, and you worry about Sandman coming down next turn, maybe Ichak is like, alright, I'm gonna get one of them out of my hand now that they cost 4, and so Leader is perfect into that play.
Leader is indeed pretty perfect in the situation. You are baiting your opponent into playing some big card, yeah. And Leader just does take equal advantage of this, and the snap comes out. I think that was from Moyen.
I believe so. And yeah,
the
retreat goes. And this is why also the 4 cubes were so important in the first game. Because now you have kind of that liberty, and I feel like especially against a player the caliber of Moyen, if you don't have any liberty of like retreating when you don't have a good end or things like that, you're gonna get punished so often.
You're gonna get punished a lot indeed.
Big House, one of the few locations that feel really bad for Electro Ramp. There are not that many in today's game because they're flexible, they can play into unplayable, so I think Big House is amongst the one that Electro Rank doesn't want to see.
Generally agree, but here Moyen has a good way of making use of it. It is kind of a blocked location anyway. You might as well invest Ebonimor into it early, and then later on double down with Dr. Doom with Arnim Zola. Multiple ways of playing into it.
Very true, very true. And Ichak is having kind of a weird hand because you have all the enablers, but nothing to enable. Like you have Killmonger, Wave, She-Hulk, so everything if you get the 1-drops, but if you don't get a 1-drop in this hand, outside of Hood, I mean, Hood is pretty good, but right now if you want to discard Death, like you don't want to kill your demon either.
Not the greatest opening hands. Shang-Chi is also a final turn play. Moyen did opt to not play Ebonimor on turn 1 here and does get rewarded with potentially playing Ebonimor on turn 2 instead. I mean, with Electro in hand, this is what I would be expecting.
Probably as well. I guess like he doesn't play it on 1 when he doesn't have Jeff. Like the previous game he played twice because he had Jeff, which made sense. And this time it's just gonna go. But against a Death Wave, it's even more like debatable. Should you play it at all? Because you know there's a Killmonger somewhere in the deck, and there's like no armor, no Profex. So you could be like, I'm locking myself out and helping my opponent discard Death later in the game.
That is a very, very good point. I think Moyen did learn from the occurrences earlier on. I would not even call it a mistake because playing Ebonimor there always seemed fine. But it did get punished by the Killmonger earlier on.
Oh, we touched Wave, so that messes up with the Wave She-Hulk synergy on turn 5.
That is actually a huge Iceman hit.
This is a big one. This is a very, very big one.
While Moyen himself still has an incredibly good curve. Still, no Sandman. Moyen's being very unlucky with the Sandman draws, we have to admit. But can go Dinosaur into Leader or...
Dino into Zola is actually pretty strong as well. So he doesn't have many cards in hand. I guess this Dino is going to stay a 9 because he's going to play 1 card per turn. But this is... So you're spending 11 energies for double 9? Is that good? Not sure.
It's okay. I mean, you kind of have to work with what you have here, right?
But maybe, like, something I really like with this deck, but that's maybe just a pleasure of mine, is Arnim Zola on Leader. I think it's just fun. Because you expect your opponent to play Death on the last turn, and so you end up with, like, 2 Deaths.
True.
And that's pretty strong.
It can be enormous. It can also just clog your board very, very hard, though.
So Electro is going to come down, and I think Moyen is debating, do we play it on Xandar, or do we play it on Strange Academy, and maybe have a shot at bringing it to Big House? But I guess with Arnim Zola, you don't kind of need to take that shot.
And I'm fairly certain the snap came in on Moyen's side just before locking in the turn, after having decided where to go for what. Ichak is playing this well so far, though. Very patient, very much playing the matchup. Does take out Iceman and Ebonimor. That is a pretty darn big hit.
Yeah, that's a big Killmonger. We Carnage a little late, but now... I guess, yeah, if you're Ichak, you have to... You feel forced to dump your hand this turn, because you know Sandman can come down. Your opponent snapped. So you can't really keep anything in hand, and I guess the logical follow-up are going to be something like Shang-Chi into She-Hulk, looking at the hand for now. He's going to be pretty happy, I think, when he's going to see Devil Dinosaur come down.
Yeah, absolutely. And the 9-power Devil Dinosaur at that. Not the scariest. one in the building or that we have seen today, but I do agree with Echok. He can dump his hand in a pretty efficient manner here. Demon goes on the left, gets supported by another Squirrel, and the right side is gonna get carnaged away.
Yes, so we have the Devil Dino coming in.
And it is going to get interesting.
Ooh, Death. Well, so he didn't see Sandman. Do you just wave and be like, you don't have Sandman? If you didn't play it on 4, maybe you don't have it at all. Do you just go for it?
That is one option, but Echok could technically also have the read that Dinosaur might get it followed up with Arnim Zola and go for an early Shang-Chi. Just
Echok has priority this time, so
exactly.
This is huge. If you Shang-Chi this Dino and your opponent goes for Zola, this is that honestly ends the game almost on the spot. So Echok elected to go with the Shang-Chi, but Moyen didn't commit Arnim Zola. He decided to go with Dr. Doom, which is a little safer. But the problem is because there's Electro on the same lane. Are you going for that 50-50? Because the thing is, you can't even really play it on Strange Academy, because if you don't Zola now, Devil Dino is going to move. Like, Strange Academy is going to move that Dino either to Big House, where you cannot play Zola anyway, or to Xandar, where you're going to have to gamble, and if you hit Electro, it's a disaster.
It is indeed. I think Moyen at this point is thinking about Dr. Doom into America Chavez and is going to see the Shang-Chi. There is no snap coming back from Echok. So this is still gonna be a 2-cube game for now, and I would have to expect a retreat from Moyen coming in soon, but we will see how this Strange Academy unfolds and what the final options are. And unfortunately for Echok, the middle location gets clogged completely, which is very easy to play against.
Yes, good for Echok. Moyen doesn't really have a big punish. Like, he only has Chavez, but that's a terrible play. And Leader doesn't take it back. Like, if he plays Leader, he doesn't take Xandar. So he's very dependent on what Echok does. So it's really, like, I feel like the location was very unlucky for Echok, but Moyen's hand compensates that really well because it doesn't have the punish.
Yeah, I have to slightly disagree here, because Moyen is aware that Death still costs 4, She-Hulk still costs 5. There's a high likelihood Echok can only play 1 card. And then Moyen can play the Leader right side and just is ahead in 2 locations. Death and She-Hulk both cannot be played into Big House. Have to be played to the right side. Not even
so
Arrow
like
is out here.
So you go like this. Okay. Yeah, that's...
So whatever Echok plays on the right side here is just going to lose to Leader if Moyen finds this line of play.
True, I was focused on the Xandar, and actually, yeah, you just take Xandar out of the equation.
Exactly.
And you just like, let's fight for Strange Academy.
Yeah, this is definitely an option that is on the table. Just forfeit Xander.
I
know
love
that
it.
you have Big House somewhat secure. It is a bit tricky. You don't know if your opponent might follow up with more small cards into Big House, but you already saw most of them. Deathlock won't do it here. Bucky Barnes is not enough. And you already saw most of the other small cards.
What's the punish like?
Almost nothing. And this is going to be played out for a total of 4 cubes, and the Leader will copy the Arrow. Moyen making a comeback here. Revenge.
Insane.
Revenge for the 4-cuber earlier. And we're all tied up, I think, at 5 and 5? 6 and 5 even.
Yeah, because Echok won the 4 cubes and then Moyen took 1 back and now 4, so it's 6-5. And this is, I feel like these are the kind of matches that are winning a tournament in the end. Because most people, I think, would have conceded on Moyen's spot. And instead, he gets up with like 4 cubes.
Yep.
That's insane.
Breaking news.
And you have to wonder, though, if a snap by Echok would have turned the tides of the table here. This might have made Moyen retreat, maybe, before Shang-Chiing the dinosaur. But can't really fault him for not doing it. Maybe he wanted Moyen to stay in for more cubes. Of course, he did get very unlucky with the Strange Academy afterwards. And that was the only reason why he was in this tough situation in the first place. Early wave coming out from Moyen, same dynamic as earlier on. But now the question is, are we going to see a Sandman come out early?
Well, we need the ramp card now. And the wave is down. So...
I mean, with Elysium, we don't need ramp anymore. That is what makes this so interesting.
True. Yeah, because you can go Sandman and then Dino. No, we're on turn 4 already.
Yeah, the other option is just soul roading.
Okay.
Like, I mean, Daily Bugle came out. Moyen knows that Echok is holding a death. And I think he's contemplating, is it really Sandman here, or do we just Leader and then Sandman the next turn? This is a lot of mind games right here. This is a what does my opponent think I do?
Like you could go on a Leader into Sandman, into like Devil, Dino, Arnim Zola kind of play.
I like it a lot.
And your hand is big and you're playing 1 card a turn, so you're copying like, I think this is a 6, so this is a 15 Dino. This is the big dinos you were mentioning we can open with with Zola. I kind of like it.
Yeah, Daily Bugle did assist the dinosaur's growth. And for now, hovering over the Sandman, just being more disruptive. This is a very tough situation. Of course, for us, this is easy. This call is easy to make. We have caster vision. We know what the
We have the answer
doing.
to the test.
Exactly. It's kind of like cheating in school.
I say that and I didn't see the leader play last game. Look at
True.
Can't even copy the answers. Come on.
Snaps coming up from Moyen with the Sandman play. I generally like the aggressive snapping approach from Moyen. What do you think about it?
I think Electro Ramp is one of those decks that is played this way. Like, you are kind of a linear deck. You're trying to do something. If you don't accept that you're snapping when that thing happens, when are you snapping?
That is a good point. And you want, most of the time you're snapping for value. You want your opponent to stay. You want to win more cubes. That means you want to snap before showing your power play, your disruptive card, before you give your strength away.
Yeah, and this is where Moyen is really consistent. Last game he snapped on the Electro turn, and he didn't have Sandman in hand. So it's not like I snap when I have a precise hand. He's snapping regularly on 2 and 3, so he's not giving the opponent any information like I snap the good hands, I retreat the bad ones. Like it's very consistent from the opponent's point of view.
I gotta agree. I like the balance of occasionally throwing in a snap that is done with not a super strong hand, but an okay hand. And that also makes it so much harder for your opponent to read you.
Yeah.
What does the snap really mean?
And this time, no, each shock has priority going into the turn. So I feel like Moyen has been also very, very good with Ornim Zola. Because every time he doesn't have priority, it feels like he's not considering it. And every time he has priority, he's thinking about it. Which is, I think, the way to look at the card currently, especially when your opponent has Shang-Chi in the deck.
Yeah. So far, very stellar play coming out from both players. Ichok has been spreading out power very effectively and very nicely. Now being interrupted by Sandman, going for the arrow. Pulling out the Magneto, which will in fact move the Killmonger over and clog Ichok once again. Back to back in a familiar situation.
So now we have that Ornim Zola potential that would probably win left and right.
But, you mentioned it earlier on, priority is immensely important. Right now, priority is in favor of Ichok, who could be holding a Shang-Chi in hand.
Yeah, but if you're Ichok, the thing is, do you even risk it? Because Ichok has priority, but actually the situation isn't that good for him. Because he doesn't have Shang-Chi, so of course Moyen doesn't know it. So if you're Ichok, do you just slam She-Hulk? Or is the play actually, considering the situation, counter-snap and tell your opponent, I got Shang-Chi on your dino and you can't beat it?
That's what I was wondering, but the counter snap does very little. There are already 4... No, there are 2 cubes invested. You're actually right.
Yeah, it's if the game goes the distance, they go to 4. Right now it's 2.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. And Moyen considering a different line of play, just
Zola onto Magneto. We're just gonna
the
win.
left.
Okay.
And this is gonna drag Deathlock and Killmonger to the right side, I believe. The second Magneto should...
this also beats Shang-Chi on the dino, because you just put Magneto back in the middle lane.
That is actually true.
But that would lose against just...
left.
Yeah, that would lose just She-Hulk dump on the right.
Yeah, then the second Magneto pulls everything to the right, that would lose. And Ichok goes for the retreat, being conservative and disciplined with the cube and the HP management. And Moyen is extending his lead.
Yeah, because he would have pulled 8. So Magneto goes to the right, he's at 23, and then he pulls 10. So they tie. But I think Devil Dino wins the tie. No, it's 14.
Yeah, that is a tough call to make. I think Ichok also realized he can't really bluff Shang-Chi that well because Shang-Chi just loses to Doctor Doom. And that is a card
was
he has
so
to be worried
crazy
about.
because actually, like, I think Moyen was losing to pass turn with this play. Because you pull Deathlock and Killmonger to the right, but they get buffed by Xandar. So it's 23-23 on the right, but the Dino is a 13 when Ichok still at 14 on the left. I think, like...
But you also get Magneto into the middle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
I'm just counting the right. Oh, my God. And which Magneto goes first? So where do Deathlock and Killmonger end up in the end?
They should end up on the right side. I think the middle one spawns first, pulls them over, and then the right one spawns and pulls them over again. Because they have not been pulled from that location, they can be pulled again.
Long days are really difficult to play MarvelSnap in the end. I understand early now. Like,
yep. There are so many just tiny interactions that are not very intuitive to know, that you have to have been in to really know what's going on.
I definitely haven't played enough Electro Sandman for this tournament. Like, I should have known. As a caster, I should have come more prepared and play 1,000 games of Electro Sandman.
Ebony Maw gets put into the monster location earlier on, followed up by a Jeff. This is a line of play we've seen a lot of. And Titan is unbelievably good, rather, for Moyen here.
This is maybe Electro Ram's location. I think like if you want one location, because it's not that scary for opponents that they're gonna leave, but it's so good for you that you could just snap on it. And I guess Moyens agree. And considering like the health difference at this point, it's also just putting Ichok on. If you pass this turn, the game ends if you lose from now on. And if you retreat, that's the last retreat you get all game long.
Yeah, and Ichok does stay in this, so this one is going to be for all the marbles. Basically a match ball for Ichok, a death match. Has to make something happen.
District X! Oh my god.
But Moyen already has great cards in hand.
Yeah, because with Electro you can play into your 6s. Like you can just go Electro into Magneto into Zola and just be happy with it.
And Ichok is gonna have a tough time ever getting this death out. Wave is gone and most of the destroy cards are gone. It's just Carnage left, and to some extent Shang-Chi could work.
Well, he played Killmonger. I think he already locked in Killmonger, so he's gonna kill that Ebony Maw.
So overall, like, we have to assume there's like 3 death triggers coming out. Shang-Chi is huge here though. Monster Island as a location generally very much favors the Shang-Chi player because you have a guaranteed target.
Yes, definitely. And like, funnily enough, I mean, each shot could clean the left because he has Shang-Chi for one and Killmonger for the other. And Shang-Chi is going to be played now. The draws are going to be so important because I feel Moyen can play with his hand, but I feel like each shock needs at least one more card, and Forge isn't that card?
Yes, absolutely.
Shadow King? What are we doing with Shadow King?
Shadow King can reset the Forge. I guess the Forge buff will be gone. No, Shadow King is pretty useless in this matchup so far.
Oh, we're going for Forge plus Carnage. Okay, yeah, we're like keeping Shang-Chi for later.
Yeah, this is one interesting dynamic. Ichok only drew through half of his deck so far. Yes. So Moyen has no idea whether or not Ichok is actually holding Shang-Chi. So it does make sense to hold him until turn 5 or even 6 for that additional cube in the very end. Although they already have all 3 cubes invested.
Yeah, Ichok can't retreat anymore anyway.
That's true.
Moyen can leave. Yeah. But, well, I mean, what's the point? No, you lose 3 anyway, so no one leaves. This one goes the distance.
That's a good point. There's no point in baiting your opponent to stay anymore. You can just straight out, you just try to go for maximum efficiency in this case. Just play your best cards, play your best plays. Killmonger gets split into the middle, does win District X for Moyen, does win Titan for Ichok.
Falcon is so bad. Oh, he goes for the Shang-Chi now? If Ichok goes for Shang-Chi on the monster now, he also gets Magneto because Moyen took back priority at the start of the turn.
But, or is he gonna go for the Shang-Chi in the middle? That is the big question. It is very hard to make this play. It is very hard to position.
I think without priority, you have to go with left. But now, imagine you're Moyen, and you're that kind of Marvel Snap genius, and you read into it, you move Jeff, and you eat the monster.
That would be a very interesting play. But this is, I mean, I would say this is a bit too far-fetched. This keeps you open for Shang-Chi's later on. And oh, I think he made the read. I think Ichok
got it. Ichok got it.
You see him fist bumping in the air?
Yeah, like Ichok is really, really happy about this turn.
And Magneto's first of all doing their thing, pulling the Killmonger around. Human Torch to the right side, and Shang-Chi carries super hard. You can see the frustration in Moyen's face, not liking to see this.
So we're, I mean, might be calling it a little early, but I think Ichok is taking this one with this incredible swing of a turn.
Yeah, you have
to assume. They would go to 3 and 3, and now we know where they're like seed 1 and 3, I think, but Moyen was tied for 2nd. Like, these games are through the roof.
Yeah, exactly what we came here for to see. And this is very worthy of a winner's finals in a super stacked Marvel Snap tournament.
Definitely. And funnily enough, Ichok is Fire Knight's best friend, which was the finalist in the last tournament. So that's a practice group you might want to follow in Switzerland. Like, they went to 2 tournaments, and one of them was in the final each time.
Yeah.
Pretty strong.
That is a very strong showing indeed. Switzerland, esports, for Marvel Snacks. Snap is...
I'll take some Marvel Snacks.
Marvel Snacks.
Oh, yeah.
Please send us some Marvel Snacks. But it is growing. It is real. And they are having 2 strong showings in a row here.
So we have Sentry. So yeah, I feel this. I feel Moyen is kind of already in the next game a little bit. He's like, I can't retreat, so I'm just gonna go off just in case. But I mean,
again, there's no point in retreating. Like, you can't even do a play that flips the situation around. But might as well.
So Ichok pulled it back 3-3. We're in high stakes rounds. So once again, like, the snap and retreat game is gonna be incredible.
Yeah.
Because they're both allowed to retreat as long as the turn doesn't pass. As soon as one turn with a snap passes, we're playing for the game.
Yes, absolutely. So both players are, let's say, on 1.5 lives, technically on 2. The hood comes down into the left side.
Oh, that's so good. Moyen takes Def. Oh wait, Ichak got Magneto. Is that a good card?
It can move Magneto around.
I mean,
that's it, basically. Wave and Magneto. It's
there's
not
a
that great.
Squirrel Girl, there's a Carnage, there's a Deathlock. Can Ichak get Def low enough that you could play Def on 5 and Magneto on 6?
That is a good question. But the issue is, if Ichak discounts his death, that also discounts Moyen's death.
This is where like the pickup of Def was so big, because I feel like there were a lot of bad things to pull from Ichak's hand. Like Deathlock wasn't so good, Carnage doesn't interact at all with well, you can eat Electro, but that's usually too slow.
Altar of Death as the third location. This has to favor Ichak so
well,
heavily.
Moyen has a Death!
This is huge.
Like,
but still, you can just play Bucky Barnes into Altar if you want to.
And the other question, like, there's so many things to consider, because Moyen, in theory, feels like he could win Altar of Death because of Jeff moving there, but there's the Bucky Barnes. So we know Ichak should win, but then there's Doom that can also add points. Like, there's so many things to consider. This Altar of Death is like, is probably the most complicated location that could have popped.
Yep. And with the mirror dimension as well, it could go to the left as well. But
and Moyen is just gonna YOLO wave?
Both players are actually playing wave. I think Ichak locked in a wave as well, if I saw that correctly. The interesting thing here for Moyen is not just Dr. Doom, also Arnim Zola can win both of the side locations at once, both altars.
True.
And the snap comes
because
in, I think,
there's
again from Moyen.
Mirror Dimension is gonna become either Daily Buggle or Altar of Death.
Yeah.
Imagine if Moyen gets a second Death. Second Daily Buggle gets Death again.
Oh, it was Carnage, it was not a wave?
Yeah, I didn't think he had wave in the hand yet. So there's wave, and so they're both gonna get a 2 energy wave. So this is
Daily
He gets another Death!
What?
This is terrible. He can play both. He has exact to play both Death right now.
That is insanity. He can play one into the left, one into the middle, and then still set up Arnim Zola.
Oh.
So
Ichak is getting Daily Buggled out of this tournament.
This is
well, actually no, because they're not done. Whoever loses this goes to loser bracket.
Yeah, but the losers bracket finals as well. So they're both in prime positions. They might even repeat this banger of a matchup later on in the grand finals. But this looks like it's going to go to Moyen with the setup so far. The double death is going to come down. I just can't wait to see the look in Ichak's face.
Okay, so there's one that... Wait, they both played 2 deaths?
Yeah, Tiny Bugle copied both deaths. Is
oh my
absolutely
god!
Nuts.
I missed that.
The Spider-Man emote coming in as well. This is perfect.
This is so good.
I mean, this is a bit of a silly game, but in a good way.
Okay, so who wins now? Because I still believe, as long as Dr. Doom isn't in Moyen's hand, I mean, no, you can still move Jeff.
And you can Zola.
Yeah, and you can Zola Death.
But the question is who's going to win the left side.
Oh, but you have Magneto on Ichak's side, so maybe you can like move Wave into the location and try to like play with Zola. If you have priority, you can Magneto in the middle, and you anticipate that they're going to move Jeff, and you move Wave instead.
Yeah. Although you have to almost assume that Moyen might not go for Zola in the first place because he does not have priority. He might respect the Shang-Chi, he might be scared of a Shang-Chi. A lot that could happen here on both sides. It's very hard to say what is going through these players' heads. Jeff is getting moved out of the way, trying to regain priority here so that he would be safe from Shang-Chi. I think that is the thought process.
True. But yeah, Bucky Bounce is still in the hand of Ichak, so he didn't commit to it yet.
Both players taking their due time, and you can't blame them. This is incredibly tense.
So he went for Deathlock on Altar or Death. Okay, so he wants 8 energies. So what? He's gonna go Bucky Barnes Magneto.
That is actually a really strong play.
Wait, he locked the middle? Why did he lock the middle?
I'm also surprised here. This takes away any threat of Shang-Chi.
So the fight is on the left. So Moyen is going to get plus 10 on the left because you get Death, but you lose 2 on Devil Dinosaur. So it's a 40.
For Moyen, now the Arnim Zola is not really safe because it could still be a Shang on the left side. I think that is the only thing Moyen has to be worried about. But Moyen could also just be playing the Magneto in the middle here.
Ooh, and you just
trying
take
to win that
middle?
way. Yeah, you would be ahead. Okay, I think you would be ahead by 3. The left side would be a tie.
Because your Dino gets -2.
Ooh, that's a good point. That would be a very sneaky way for Ichak to take it. Bucky Barnes into Altar, Magneto into the left side.
Yeah.
So it is a tough spot for Moyen. And of course, you viewers at home and we as casters...
We know what the play is, but from their perspective, they're like in a domino loop where if I do this and he does this, and then I need to do this, and then he needs to do this, and there's no really a right answer. Like, you need to make the play that your opponent doesn't punish.
Yeah, and you have to be so scared of the Shang-Chi in Moyen's shoes. That is what this whole
and
thing is all about.
And you can't retreat. Like, you have to commit to a play. You just have to trust your guts, and it's so difficult.
It's also such an uncommon situation. This is a situation that neither of the players has been in before. This doesn't just show up during
sprints. For death? No, that doesn't come up in practice. There's not a mode in Marvel Snap where you can just custom and like, hey, I want to play with
if this gets locked in, and it does get locked in, I'm pretty sure Echok is going to take this one. The first Magneto flips over, the second one flips over, taking the left location, and Bucky Barnes secures the Altar of Death with the Winter Soldier.
Echok Swiss in the final. So Echok beat Moyen twice in this tournament already. Maybe we can get him to join us on cast because I want to know everything that went through his mind in this deck.
That was an insane series with the Daily Bugle copying all of the deaths. The playmaking as well. That was both players just reading each other's intentions so well. Reading each other's decks so well. And some great snapping and retreating strategy. It came down all the way to the final game.